This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so happy Friday, everyone. Today is December 7th. Overall, first of all, let's just remember everything that we're going to be going over today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. So overall, Kron. So we saw the prints that came in at that 11. And it started pulling back, and you know what? It just like everything else does. We know when we have big buying, we're going to end up seeing these things pull back for them to build their positions. But somebody knew something. So Kron, up huge today, over 30%. So basically, the prints that we've seen so far this morning, we did have some at 13 that started off with the ask and then came back, with a few bid. And the same thing at the 14 level. We have a bunch of ask prints and then, a bunch of bid. But the one thing that I look at, especially with these cheaper stocks, is new buying, something that shows us that somebody else has to make money. So as of right this second, I'm still expecting more of a pullback from here. But the one thing that we did see is at 1450, we do have ask prints. So there's someone now at that 1450, basically at those highs, that after this pullback is going to need to make money. So obviously, you guys put the news out there that, somebody bought a giant portion of them above 16. And overall, it's showing us that after we come back that we're going to be expecting a trigger towards that upside. So really like what I'm seeing in Kron. I mean, this thing is basically trading almost like a regular stock during the pre-market. It's not too often that we see this happening. This pull down underneath that 14 after those 14 ask prints was a pretty easy thing to see and a pretty easy trade coming into it. So we're once again just going to be expecting that pullback, and then that trigger towards that upside is what we're going to be looking at to go long based off the amount of buying that we're seeing still coming into here. Next thing looking at is APHA. So APHA yesterday, we know we had a huge amount of buying that was coming in as we were coming towards the close of the market, pulled up to that 550 level, had some ask prints that came into there, pulled back a little bit, and now we're starting to come back up. Now you can see right here, this is an interesting prints coming in at that 6 level. We have 15,000 and 10,000. And if it lets me go back enough, you can see the 6 level is still mixed. But the thing about being mixed is that we have to understand there's going to be profit taking happening. Okay, anytime a cheaper stock is up, people are going to be selling. What I want to see is that new buying coming in that shows us somebody else has a new position that needs to make money on, and we can definitely see that here in APHA. I am expecting it to pull down a little bit more underneath that 6 level before we end up seeing that go back up. But almost just like Kron, what we're going to be expecting is from that pullback, getting that trigger back towards that upside. And it certainly shows that it has a ton of variables that we can continue up and keep making this move. Overall, 1.4, almost 1.5 million shares right now. So shows a whole bunch. Selling matters more. You were saying same thing about Kron. So yes. So, well, see, you got to understand something. So it's not that selling or buying means one or the other. It's the other variables that come into it. So we can see that the stock is trending up. So if the stock is trending up, we have to go under the assumption that market makers are making money. So when a stock, especially a stock like APHA or in Kron, what it's telling us is that no matter what people are going to sell when a stock is going up, we're going to see that. But it's the new money that's coming in that tells us that there's more room for it to continue on that actual trend. And that's why it's not that I don't care about the selling, because if you have somebody that just comes in and dumps, a ton of shares and completely gets out of it, that can kill a cheaper stock. And we see it happen all the time. But it's that new buying that tells us that we still have more room for this thing to be able to go. Kron's range, I would not base the range of the average range on Kron. Usually it moves about $1, but based off the volume, you can see there's 6.8 million shares coming in. I can almost guarantee you that overall we're going to see more than 98 cents from top to bottom coming into Kron. Next one looking at is NBEV. So this is another one where it normally would be a sideless stock, but it's following, almost all of the pot stocks. And I know the New Age Bev Corp, but they apparently they had that some type of drink that has, THC in it or whatever. But this is another one where we're seeing it come back up, but it does have good buying that came back in. And one of the things that I'm most interested in, and I've actually seen this in a lot of the pot stocks. You can see these below the bid prints, and you can see most of them are coming in a spot where it's not actually trading at that specific price. So when I see something like this, really what I'm going to be looking for is 479, so basically 480. You have 477. So the lowest to the highest, I'm going to be looking as bullish above and bearish below. This amount of prints that came in is certainly something. Somebody knows something that's going on out there. And like I said, when we have the below the bid and above the ask prints, we don't really want to put any type of direction directly towards them yet. So based off of what we see coming into here, I mean, this is just a huge amount of bursts that were coming in. I mean, you can see right at that 8 o'clock, especially, that's when most people can actually start trading during the pre-market. So I'm going to be looking for this above that basically 505-ish area. As long as we can get some volume and a trigger above that 505, these prints are going to end up showing us as that somebody was, coming in and buying them. And then we also do have some good buying bursts that came in above that 5. So I'm going to be watching that one as well. And then ACB is going to be on my side list. Reason being, it's got a huge amount of buying. I mean, if you could see coming into that minor, that 570-ish area, there's a lot of new buying that we're still seeing coming into this. So even though it's pulling back and it's looking very quanty coming into the morning right now, I do like that new buying. So it's on the side list, but this is another big reason. See how we have that same type of deal that we just had in NBEV, where we have those below the bid prints that are coming in at basically a price that has nothing to do with where the stock was actually trading at that moment. So what I do is I take the lowest to the highest of the prints that we have here, and based off of that, we're going to, once again, bullish above and bearish below. I'm going to need to see the market open. That's why it's going to be on the side list before I really make any type of decisions. But I do like the buying, like I said, coming into that minor here at that 575 level, right around there. I'm looking real good. Apple, let's take a look. So Apple, I mean, most of the everyday stocks right now are not really doing much. They took a little bit of a hit overnight, but then it basically did, wrong spot. It didn't really mean much. I mean, they're pulling right back. You can see coming in, we had a print at 174 on the ask, and 175, we have a bunch of different bid prints that came in there. So overall, just like we talked about yesterday in the closing bell meeting, so we're going to be talking SQ, Apple, MU, NVDA, all of these. SQ has so much more, and I'm using this almost, well, first of all, Apple has a ton of ask prints from yesterday that are at that 175 level. And then also coming to SQ needs to pull up above that 69 level. So basically, when the market falls, we see all of these everyday stocks fall. When the market goes up, we see kind of almost all of these everyday stocks go back up. So SQ is one of the stocks that we have that shows us that it still needs more. It still has more to go. There's still more room for us to go back up because of the fact that it needs to pull back up above that 69 level before we end up seeing it come back down. Okay, so Lulu was 100% satisfied yesterday, and I've typed that in there that I was going to take. See, every once in a while. I mean, we just had such a great show of hands. So what I did, I took a few shares. It was nothing special whatsoever, but ended up selling once we came into the aftermarket. That's one of the only aftermarket trades I've ever made, and it wasn't taking the actual trade; it was getting out of it. But it's just trickling back up, and as of right now, it's only trading 51,000 shares. So for a stock to basically move from, let's just say, 130 down to to 114, talking about a $16 move towards that downside. So somebody knew something. And then you can see as we started pulling back up, see the volume here? Volume's absolute garbage. So if we get some type of show of hand that comes into it to be able to trade, then we're going to go, based off of that. But the variables still say that the move back towards that upside did not have anything compared to the move that came back towards that downside. And other than that, I mean, we have our everyday stocks and, basically pot stocks. So CGC is another one that you're going to be able to look at. I mean, it's moving pretty decently this morning. Oops. Coming back towards, it's almost like a sympathy trade. It's just following based off of the news that came in Crom. But you can see again at 8 o'clock, see all of these pot stocks. We have these below the bid prints that came back into them. TLRY doesn't really have the same type of, because the prints just aren't really there, the same way that everything else is. But once again, 8 o'clock, see this below the bid print. So someone is in every single one of the pot stocks, and it came in at 8 o'clock on every single one of them. So it's very interesting to see that somebody knows something. Once the market opens, we're going to get that show of hand that comes in. I mean, first of all, right now, Kron, we already have that show of hand that tells us that the stock needs to go back up above 1450. But it's just very interesting to see. I love anomalies. I love to see something that jumps out at you. And every single thing that we've seen, every single pot stock that we've seen this morning at 8 o'clock has some below the bid prints coming in. So looking forward to seeing that. Usually when you see something like that, we're going to end up getting a real nice move off of, once again, bullish above, bearish below, from almost everything. 151 in NVDA isn't low enough to satisfy the selling at 152 in NVDA. No, not at all. In a stock like NVDA, let's say 6 or 7, we're not going to use the exact average because of the fact that it's from 200 to 150. But a bunch of prints in a stock like NVDA, $1 is never going to be enough. Was there buying in NVDA yesterday? Does that have more room up? Hit 160 after hours? Yes. Yeah, so, 155 had a huge amount of buying. We have one, a bid print and an aspirin at that 159 level. But overall, I'm still expecting these stocks to continue to pull up based off of the fact that, some of them still need a lot more of a pull up based off the amount of selling that they had from there. All right, guys, anything else out there that I missed? I think that's pretty much it. But you know what? It looks like a very interesting morning. Once again, I'm still expecting a bunch of pull-ups in our everyday stocks. Once again, show of hands. But for right now, Kron, overall, at the buying that we had at 14, and then that buying at 1450, we know there's new buying sitting at that 1450 level. 15 is going to be a very hard level to break, obviously being a psychological level. So just keep that in mind as you're looking for your triggers and as you're creating your game plans, and we will go from there. All right, guys, I will talk to everyone in the chat, and happy trading.